Hi all, welcome to the final whistle for another match preview then. The World Cup is over, the Premier League is back, unless you played in the Carabao Cup in midweek, which both teams did, respectively. Both won their games. Newcastle beating Bournemouth, Leicester beating League One side MK Dons, 3-0. So the Premier League is back then after a long period off with the World Cup. Argentina and Lionel Messi going on to win the whole competition against France in the final. So get your score predictions in, get your thoughts in ahead of this one then. Let me know what you think is going to happen. It's a Boxing Day clash at the KP, and I'm really excited for this one. Smash a like on the stream for me if you can. Subscribe to the Final Whistle if you can do that as well. It'd be really much appreciated. And I've got two guests tonight. I've got Chris Curry from Evermore NUFC, the podcast, and I've got John Sinclair TV. So we'll be talking to both Newcastle fans. It's a Newcastle duo tonight against one Leicester fan. So let's not be too hasty. But the boys will be joining me shortly, and let's get a show on the road. Hi all, welcome to the Final Whistle for another match preview then. I'll be joined shortly by John and Chris. They'll be joining me to talk all things Leicester City and Newcastle. It's been good games over the years between the Geordies and the Foxes, so we're excited for this game. As always, if you're watching, smash a like, subscribe if you can. We're on 736. So if you can subscribe, that'd be appreciated. Let's get my first guest in. Evening.
Good evening to you, Jack. How are you doing? Thanks for having us on. I know I've been struggling to come out and eat but I thought, you know what, I'll come on for a bit, and here we go. So big up to you and all your chats as well.
The next one is Chris. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, Jack. Thanks for having us on, buddy. It's a nice break from the Christmas madness, mate, to talk about this game. I'm excited about it.
I think we need it. Boys, I'm going to come to you first, John. Thoughts on your season so far, mate? Let's look at the Premier League table. Newcastle are respectively third with 15 games played, 30 points. So what's your thoughts on the season so far, John? You're 10 games unbeaten. Tell me about your season then under the new ownership and that. Come on.
Okie dokie. Good evening to you, Chris, by the way. Hope you're okay, mate.
Good evening, John.
And yeah, look, I mean, before the start of the season, it's just going to be a transactional season from the beginning, right? And Eddie Howe's come in, and you know what he's done, right? He's just got the players in that he can trust. I mean, He brought in like winners, Trippier, he brought in Bruno Guimaraes, also brought in a couple of these players as well, Sven Botman and Matt Target, and Isaac when he's fit. And he's made a difference. I mean, he's made the difference to us as well, Eddie Howe. And I've always said, if you can get top 10 this season, that team has a great season with a cup as well. But as the season went on, we started so well. Absolutely so well. Until got beat Liverpool, but we're on a winning streak here. I think we're on 5-6 game winning streak. And what has Eddie Howe done to this club? He absolutely turned it around. And what I mean, turn it around, the players believed in him. The players stepped up. Look at players like Joe Linton, right? I mean, he cost 40 million quid, right?
Yep.
I thought he's one of the worst centre forward I've seen in a long, long time. I'm not gonna lie.
Yep.
Eddie Howe comes in and he turned his season around, and he started to play like 40 million quid. He plays one of the best box-to-box midfielders in the country, and he should be in a national team, but I think he'll get playing the Copa America in a couple of years' time. And Miggy Almiron, what can I say about this guy? He has really stepped up to the plate. This guy's my player of the season already. He has transformed this season. And he's scoring goals for fun, and he shows what a great player he is. And he's just done the business. Absolutely done the business, man. And he's just absolutely brilliant. I mean, the team have been sensational. Bruno Gamache, that guy is absolutely brilliant. That guy should be good enough to play for the likes of Real Madrid, Juve, and Barca. But I'm so glad he's here. And he's going to be with Newcastle for a long, long time because he knows he wants to be a legend here. And we're going to make sure that we're going to get top 4 this season. I truly believe you get top 4 this season. Depends who we buy in January. And hopefully you do that and we keep going. Then I'll tell you something, top 4's out of the question. What a season.
I agree. Newcastle have been fantastic under Eddie Howe. Chris, Eddie Howe took over. Newcastle had no points to show for when Eddie Howe took over. He's transformed them massively. Guimaraes has come in, like you say, and players like that, Sven Botman, Kevin Trippier, Chris Wood. Seth Maximan's playing his part now. What a player. Joe Linton, he's changed his position now, which he looks more better in that position than he did a striking position. Talk to me about Newcastle's season. Then you're in the top 4, rightfully so. The hard work's paying off. And big respect to the owners as well with the timing that everything's happened in.
Absolutely. It's interesting, actually, Jack, being a Leicester fan yourself. You guys know what it's like to go from one extreme to the other, when you're hanging on by your fingernails and then you're at the other end of the table. So, I mean, I think as Newcastle fans, John will back me up on this, we never thought in our wildest dreams this season would be like it's been now. The last season, it was just a miracle job by Eddie Howe to save that team. We all kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that we were probably going to go down again. And, we weren't going to blame Eddie Howe for that, but the way he put the performances in with the players on the training pitch, the transformation those players had, as John said, a couple of them there, Joe Linton in particular, unbelievable. To take a iron striker and turn him into a Patrick Vieira style midfielder has just been unbelievable. It really, really is. And then at the end of last season, I think as fans, we all went away happy we were a Premier League team. We didn't really think we would come back and probably continue the intensity that was going on last season. But first couple of games in, I was at the Manchester City game when we drew 3s each, and we were unbelievable. We went toe to toe with arguably the best team in world football, really, I suppose, when you look at them, club level anyway, with the players that they had. John's mentioned Sven Botman. He's the only player I've seen deal with Haaland, and I think he fell asleep for 1 second and Haaland scored. But Haaland knew he was in a game against that lad. But it's just been amazing, Jack, to be honest with you. I mean, we've gone from thinking, we might get top 10, maybe 7th or 8th, to, as John rightly says there, why shouldn't we think we should be a Champions League club? The way we're playing, it's funny for Leicester and us, we've almost swapped places, whereas you guys are in 4th position and we're normally 13th, 14th. So, we're enjoying it as long as we can. There is similarities between the two clubs, I think, Jack. But for me, I'm sure John will say the same. It's just amazing, and long may it continue, mate.
John, I'm going to come to you with this one. What's the mood been like around St James's Park now? Obviously, the sports direct stuff's gone. Mike Ashley's gone. The new owners have come in and that as well. What's the mood been like, John, around St James's Park then? I think John's gone.
John's gone.
Chris, answer the question for me.
No problem, mate. Well, I'm sure John will say the same, but it's electric, Jack. It really is. I mean, you can feel it in the air. I'm sure you guys are the same with the King Power from, when you had the bad times to obviously the good times coming when you won the league and you were pushing into Champions League positions and everything else. Walking up to the ground, everybody's buzzing, everybody's excited. You go into the pubs, everybody's bouncing. I mean, you've probably been to an away game at Newcastle. It's a lovely atmosphere anyway. We're very welcoming to away supporters. We've always been like that. Absolutely. Well, I was there for the Bruno goal, yeah. No, it was amazing, mate. Amazing. I won't talk about that.
We were 1-0 up at that point as well.
I remember. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the goal when he scored, mate. It's incredible. But the whole city just seems to have come alive, and you're really looking at one man for that. It's Eddie Howe. I mean, he's just got what needs to be done, and he's got in there, methodically picked out the problems. And people talk about the money that was spent, the transfer window. Yes, he's bought some good players, but it's the players that he's made better that were already there that Steve Bruce had written off, which is the most amazing thing. But as a city, as a fan base, mate, honestly, we're on cloud nine. I'm quite lucky. I lived through the Keegan years and the Bobby years. And then so I went full circle from it being good to crap to good again to crap again. Some of the younger fans there have only ever known Mike Ashley. And this is like, it's like they stepped into Narnia or something here, mate. It's unbelievable.
It's mad. These owners now have brought the spirit back to Newcastle, haven't they? The football and what fans enjoyed once, they're now enjoying again. They said a 10-year plan to get into Europe, win the Premier League and that. Do you think that's something now in a vision that Newcastle, where they are on the table now, can absolutely go and build on and go and smash them targets and go and believe in themselves? Do you think, Chris?
Absolutely. If anything, Jack, I think the plans come a little bit quicker than they maybe thought it would have done with how great the manager's been and how great the players that have come in have been, the likes of Dan Burn and Trippier, Botman, settling that back line. Yourself, when you guys won the Premier League, when you had Wes Morgan and Huth and guys like that, Simpson, you need to have a steady back line, Schmeichel and goal. Once you have that consistency week in, week out, that wins you titles. Yes, goals and, silky midfielders and all of that are great, but you need to have a strong defence to do anything in this league. And we've got that now. And I think that was the building block what Eddie Howe put in place. And, I honestly do think that Newcastle, maybe top four might be pushed this season, but I really think we're going to be in the top six this season come the end of the season. And I think for the owners, that's probably about 4 years earlier than they anticipated it would have been. And then that's when you build. I mean, we've got the January window coming. I won't talk about a certain player that you probably don't want me to talk about.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. We're getting close. I thought we
might. But the proof will be in the pudding when it comes to January as to whether these owners throw money at it and say, go for it. If they think we're close to the Champions League. But it is exciting times, mate. No doubt about that.
I've got a question here from Mighty Mag 9. Big up your damn self. Jack, where do you see Newcastle finishing this season? Do you know what? Newcastle was one of the dark horses this season. That's what they became. Everyone talked about Tottenham, Man City, Liverpool winning the league and all that, and Arsenal. Arsenal have changed their merits this season, and big credit to Mikel Arteta. But Newcastle, the Premier League this season is so unpredictable. It's unreal. You've got Brighton up there. You've got Newcastle. You've got teams who you'd think would finish bottom 10 every season, you know what I mean? Yeah. But Newcastle, big respect to Eddie Howe. I think for me, I think Newcastle can do it, I think they'll finish top 6. I'm going to really give Newcastle the golden glove here. I'm going to shake their hand and I'm going to say they'll finish top 6. If they can keep winning their games, what they should be winning, and keep that good football going, then I definitely think Newcastle can do it. What do you think, Chris? Where do you actually think Newcastle can get to then at the end of the season? Could it be second? Could it be third? Or even first place?
Well, I'm not sure about first place. I think we might be a bit away from that. I mean, it's an interesting one because even though we're playing so well and the team's playing so well, as John said before he dropped out there, we're still heavily reliant on Callum Wilson to change that whole dynamic of that side. And Callum Wilson, as good as he is injury prone. Obviously, Isak has picked up injuries as well, which is disappointing. So if anything was to happen to Callum Wilson, I think it would definitely change the whole dynamic of our side. As hard as Chris Wood puts in the graft, he's not clinical in front of goal. And I think we lose a massive key element when Wilson gets injured. So hopefully that won't happen. Hopefully Isak can get back and get fit and get in the picture. But I think when I look at the teams that we've played already, Jack, we've kind of played the best and we've played a lot of the rest. And I know you guys started the season poorly, but normally the way Leicester play, Leicester was the kind of team that we were emulating. We wanted to get to Leicester's standard. We wanted to get to where Leicester were, top kind of 7, top 8 team. They were dancing around the kind of 5th, 6th positions, and then maybe finish at kind of 8th. We were hoping Newcastle would get to that level. So it's interesting to play Leicester when you guys have picked up a bit more form, because I think that would be a good litmus test for us as to how far away we are from top 6. I really do agree with that. But I think, yeah, I think top 6, top 7 is definitely not without the realms of possibility for us, mate.
Yeah, I agree. We're gonna talk about your last game, which was in the Premier League. You beat Chelsea 1-0. A goal by Joe Willock, an absolute cracker.
Great goal.
Talk to me about that game then. Before obviously the World Cup started. Then a big win for Newcastle against Chelsea, was it?
It's interesting, Jack. We used to go into these games just shaking myself as fans, thinking, "Oh God, we're going to get turned over by Chelsea. We'll be lucky if we get out with a 3-0 defeat and stuff like that." But what Eddie Howe has done with this club is changed the whole mentality of it. And winning does that, definitely. It creates confidence. We go to these fixtures now, we're not scared. I mean, we used to play you guys and be scared we'd get battered, that Barney would run rings around us, or Tillemans would score a screamer from 40 yards, or Madison would rip us to pieces. But we go into these games now, we're not scared anymore. We're excited about what we're going to bring to the game. And I think in that Chelsea game, the atmosphere at St James's is something special, Jack. You experienced it yourself with the flags out now and the atmosphere. It's very it's a bit like the Dortmund kind of yellow war type vibe, over in European football. And when it's not there, it's very noticeable. I think Dan Byrne even mentioned that when I think after the Queen had died, the flags didn't come out of respect, and you could tell the atmosphere in the ground was down, and you almost lost a bit of that intensity before the game. And I think a lot of teams now get intimidated by it. Those Chelsea players definitely did. And they came to Newcastle and played like Burnley or Stoke, and we just ran rings around them, really. We should have won by more than one goal in the end. And it's just so impressive, when you have teams like Man City coming and we go at them, Chelsea, we go at them, Liverpool at Anfield, we went at them, so we're not scared of these teams anymore. So I think everybody in the ground wasn't surprised we got the win, but it was a great way to sign off for the World Cup, mate. We were buzzing with that.
I think with teams like Leicester and Newcastle now, it's the case of they all talked about this so-called Big Six. And, they talked about them for years, something that Sky Sports created themselves, the media, they all big it up. But, now it's the case of you see these teams like Brighton and that going at these big teams and beating them. And you think to yourself, that wouldn't have happened years ago. But now these little teams ain't scared of these big clubs. They're standing toe-to-toe. You've seen Newcastle go at Liverpool. You've seen Newcastle beat Chelsea. And, Newcastle are beating these big sides. Big sides that, 5 years ago, you'd have said, nah, we ain't beating these. They get 5-0 spanking. Newcastle are like, well, hold on a minute. We're a team. We've got the confidence, team spirit. We'll take you on. And I think that's something I will look at Leicester as well. Leicester, when you play Man City, it's like, oh, no, they'll paste us 5-0. But then, we played them this season. We're on a bad run of form, and we thought, oh, here we go, 5-0. But now we're only 1-0, you know what I mean? These little teams ain't scared of the so-called Big Six anymore. Football's anybody's game. It's who's better on the day. And if you're going to give them too much respect, you're going to get beat, aren't you? But if you don't give them no respect at all, you're in with a chance of beating these teams, because that's what they expect. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it comes from the managers as well, Jack. It comes from, Brendan Rodgers is a confident manager. He's confident in what he does with his squad and with his tactics and his ethos, same as Eddie Howe. John's got a power cut. Fair. Bless him. God bless him. I'll try and carry it for him when he's not here. Bless him. But so yeah, I think that it comes from the managers really. If you think about when we had Steve Bruce, the negativity. I mean, even a bit when you had Pearson, to a certain extent, there was a bit of negative play. The manager comes in, new managers come in with a fresh, vibrant kind of take on how they want the team to play football. And I think a lot of that, look at Thomas Frank as well at Brentford. That's the same. They go at teams and they're not scared, as you rightly say. It's 90 minutes. It doesn't matter who's on the pitch. You're going to try your best to win that game, however you can win it. And if you back your players in those moments, like you guys will back Harvey Barnes, you back Tillemans against, a De Bruyne or anybody, and we'll do the same with Bruno and Wilson. And I think it's the confidence the manager has in the players and also the supporters have in the players that just makes them, stand up and put their chests out and say, well, let's go for it, And it's great to see, Jack, because when Leicester won the league, it was the best thing I'd ever seen, because all the salty top 4 clubs were just, they couldn't believe that somebody invited little old Leicester to the party. It was the best thing to see. I loved it. Honestly, mate, it was one of the best things I've ever seen. And if we can do the same this season, break that top 4, I would be absolutely over the moon, mate. I'd be over the moon.
That's what we like to see as Premier League fans, isn't it? We want to see difference every year in positions. We don't want to see Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, top four every year. Even Man United, you know. You look at Man United now and Spurs and not Man City, but Liverpool and that. They don't seem the same team this season, you know.
No.
Liverpool, they look beatable. Spurs, you know, they're trophyless, whatever you want to call them. They're not this big side what everyone thinks they are. They're just Harry Kane and Son, what they was before. You know, they were never a team. It was always about Kane and Son, you know. And then you look at Man City's just class, aren't they? But then if you look at Man United, they're beatable these days as well. They're not what they used to be with Alex Ferguson, where you just think, Old Trafford, Fergie time, 96 minutes. You know, these teams are beatable now. Chelsea, you know, they've got a new manager. And look at them now. It ain't going great for them. Chelsea don't look good. They've not got a striker who can finish goals. Lukaku didn't want to be there. And what can you say? These big teams are all, it's money, isn't it? They bring in and invest and that, but they try buying all the best players, but sometimes it don't work. You know, you could have Timo Werner in your team because he's banging them in the German league. Lukaku banging them in the Italy league. But it's the Premier League. It's no different game in it, Chris, when you come to these leagues. You might be scoring in these leagues where it's people won't challenge you, but when it comes to the Premier League, it's no different force, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, Jack, I prefer the way Newcastle have done it as well, actually, is similar to the way Leicester done it. I mean, you bought some unbelievable players, your Kantes, your Mahrez's from nowhere, you know, and turned them into Premier League superstars and, you know, 60 million quid players. You know, we've had to pay a bit more for the likes of, you know, Bruno Guimaraes and Botman, but, you know, we spent, between them two, they cost less than Harry Maguire, went to Man United for, between the two of them.
£80 million.
Exactly. The players that we've got there, we've got some of the most exciting young European talent, or playing in Europe at the time, Bruno at Lyon and Botman at Lille. And, you know, the two of them have come in and have just been unbelievable. I mean, you know, the likes of Man United fans and Arsenal fans, they're kicking themselves thinking, why didn't we get these lads? And it just goes to show you, having a good scouting network as Leicester had for years under, you know, the players you brought in, even when Kante went, you replaced them with Ndidi and all that. You need to have those guys behind the scenes, which is something I think Newcastle have done really well with the back of house with Dan Ashworth and all these people. And hopefully that'll put us in good stead for seasons to come. So we won't just, you know, spike up the season and drop off, you know, and have to throw loads of money at it. You know, we'll grow ergonomically and find our place in that top four, top six picture.
I think that's what it's about. You look at the team what Leicester won the league with. That weren't much. You look at Man City, what they spend on a team they win the league with, compared to what Leicester won it in 2015-16. It's incredible, but it's not how much money you spend on a team. It's how good the players actually are for what you buy for cheap. You can get cheaper players better than what you spend £60 million on or £80 million. So
value for money. That's it.
The next one I'm going to ask you, Chris, before we move on to the Leicester-Newcastle game, is this man, James Maddison. Big rumours in the summer that Newcastle were going to bid £40 million, and Leicester felt that wasn't the right amount that what they'd wanted for James Maddison. Leicester want more. He's one of England's best midfielders, for God's sake. He's assisted the most, scored the most goals as well, and you know he's a fantastic player, but talking on James Maddison's rumours, and obviously he's now being rumoured for January, saying that Newcastle now were not prepared to pay the money in January. They potentially look in the summer. So what do you think is going to happen with this one, Chris, with the James Maddison saga? And do you think he'll be a Newcastle player come January? Because he hasn't signed a new contract with Leicester yet. It was close, but nothing's been from it since in the last few months, since saying he was close to signing a new contract. But now the rumours have gone about the contract situation. Does it all depend now on, with Maddison, European, if Leicester met Europe this season? Do you think that's where it could think, you know what, if Newcastle met Champions League, then that could be a move for me?
Yeah, I think you might be right. We did a transfer rumour video on Maddison. I did get some of your fellow Leicester fans giving it to me in the comments about James Maddison. I must admit, but there we go. Newcastle fan, there we go. So got some comments there. Can you tell, Chris? I didn't see that one. Sorry, Scott. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Can you tell Chris, do you remember Hamza's goals again? I do actually remember them. That thunder bastard he scored. I also remember him nearly decapitating Matt Ritchie with a challenge. I remember that, I think, which was a horrendous challenge.
Tough tackle.
So, yeah. Well, actually, Chowdhury, just a little bit on Chowdhury before we move to Madison. Chowdhury's this strange kind of sliding door moment for Newcastle where we couldn't get him over the line on a loan deal because we wouldn't pay enough of the percentage of his wages or something. So everyone keeps throwing out Chowdhury's name to where we are now because that was where we were. That was where we are now. So it's quite a good example to use. But going on to James Maddison, listen, there's definitely something there, Jack. I think. I mean, you've seen some of the little. Winks and smirks when he's been away with England and talking with Trippier and Wilson and all. Yeah, there's something going on behind the scenes. But I think it is. But I think the thing is about this Newcastle United now. Newcastle United has always been a big club. I mean, we've had our downfalls over the years, but when you think about the Premier League, you think about English football. Newcastle United is a name that comes out. That huge stadium, that fan base, right in the heart of the city. You've been yourself. It's something that players, when they go and play against us, go, do you know what? I wouldn't mind playing here one day. Well, look at this. And you go in that atmosphere now with the flags and the support and the love and people have got flags up at players and, players will look at that and think, oh, do you know what? I fancy a bit of this. But I think with Maddison, he's kind of at a crossroad in his career because with Leicester, in the past, you had some of your star players that, your Kantes and your Mahrez's that did take that jump and they did move when the going was good to go to Chelsea and City. Maddison had his time, didn't he, when Arsenal was sniffing around him and Man United was sniffing around him, and nothing really seemed to materialise. So I think for him, he'll be thinking, his age now, he's in the form of his life. He's playing superbly, as you rightly say, criminally underused in the World Cup. I don't know why he was never used. It's horrendous that, but that's another story for another day. But I think he will be looking at us to say, where do we finish this season? Where are we going next season? So if Newcastle finish top 4, do we go out in the summer? Do we buy big? Do we get these big players in? Do we go in the Champions League? Is he playing at St. James's Park against Barcelona in front of 52,000 with Champions League music playing? These are things that he'd be thinking. I think he has got a lot of love for Leicester. And do you know what? I was so impressed with him earlier on in the season when it was tough and there were some games where, you guys put in some stinking performances and he fronted up in front of the camera. And I think a lot of the times he gets this really bad party boy reputation, which he's no worse than Jack Grealish, in my opinion. I think he's nowhere near as bad as Jack Grealish, but in terms of that regard. But he really won a lot more people over, I think, when he did that, because you saw a leader there as well as a great player. So for us as Newcastle fans, we wanted him even more after that. But I think the story goes, we bid twice for him in the summer. We bid 40 million and Leicester rejected it flat out. There was talk about us trying to give Dubravka as part of a swap deal.
Because we didn't have a goalkeeper.
Yeah, he didn't have a goalkeeper. Dubravka, I didn't think was too keen on that. I was very surprised when he went to Man U on loan. That was an odd one because I thought 40 million plus Dubravka, there's your 50, we'll have him. And just didn't seem to materialise. But in January, I think we will go for Maddison. I really do. But my theory is, I think we'll go in probably with about 40, 45 million, try again as his contract's running down, see if we can negotiate with Leicester. It all depends on what the player wants to do. Now Leicester's quite, away from the relegation zone and heading towards the right end of the table. Brendan and the rest of the guys might think, we'll let him go January, get the money, buy a replacement, whatever it may be. If we don't get him or if we're priced out, I can see us going for somebody like Pulisic from Chelsea. And maybe getting him as a plan B, and then maybe revisiting Maddison in the summer, depending on how St. Maximin plays. So Maximin is a funny player. I'm sure we'll talk about him in the preview in a minute. But so Maximin's got a really big month this month, and I've been saying this on our channel, and I've just done an article on our website about it. For Maddison and Pulisic being linked to us, they're creative players, game changers like Maxi. Maxi's got it all to do at the minute because he's the player that we're all looking at going, well, what are you doing? Why aren't you stepping up? Why aren't you doing what Miggy's doing? Why aren't you doing what Bruno's doing? Why are you struggling? And everyone keeps throwing names like Maddison at us, and we're all going, get rid of Maxi, get Maddison, get rid of Maxi, get Maddison. And if Maxi stands up and does what Maxi can do, those noises will get quieter. But yeah, I think we will take a sniff at him again in January, Jack, but it depends on Leicester's stance. What do you think Leicester are going to do?
not give him at all. I think I love Maddison. I love him. Great player. You know, Southgate only took him to the World Cup for media purposes. It weren't the case. They were thinking of using him. He tried playing this good guy in it. I take Maddison to keep the media off my back. And, you know, it started showing its true colours as the World Cup went on for England. And Maddison's a great player. He deserves to play for a big club. Maddison, what can I say? He's worth more than £60 million. He
probably is by the current transfer markets. Yeah.
He's got about a year and a half left on his contract. So, you know, that's going to take a big bit to negotiate with Leicester of how much Leicester think James Maddison's worth, because Vishai, before he sadly passed away, he thought Maddison was going to be a real star, and he wasn't wrong. Maddison is a key player for Leicester. He's a creator, scores goals. He loves it. He loves Leicester. But it all depends on Leicester's thinking, and you know, we don't know what Maddison's thinking now. Obviously, Leicester want to time down to a new contract like they do Tielemans. So we'll see what happens. But I don't think Maddison's going nowhere in January. So I think it'll all dwell now on next summer, on where Newcastle finish, where Leicester finish, and what James Maddison's thinking is going to be going into next summer. But I think he'll be with Leicester for the rest of the season. No disrespect to you lot, but
no, I can see it as well, mate. Why would you sell your best player mid-season? You know,
you don't want to sell best players. We sold Fofana, you know. We sold him £75 million to Chelsea. That took a while. He disrespected the club, did all sorts to get a move, and now he's injured.
It was naughty that.
He's injured. Yeah, he's injured again. I want to play Champions League football. He's injured, and you know, I guess with some players, it's I'll force a move. I'll do whatever. I'll move on, and the club's got the money that we want from, so it don't really matter. But the fans, you know, it's how you leave, innit? That's the fans' issue. It's how you leave the club. If you're going to disrespect the club in that, they're going to hate you forever. But if you leave in a rightful manner like Kante did and all that, then the fans ain't going to issue. Chris, let's talk about Newcastle and the Leicester fixture then. Let's have a look at the head-to-head stats and all competition. Leicester winning 49, Newcastle winning 55, draws 27. Last time round at the King Power Stadium.
I was waiting for that one. Talk
to me about that game. Obviously, the so-called James Maddison dive to get Tielemans that penalty.
Yes.
Patson Daka scored. Tielemans was unstoppable that day, and you could say Newcastle were very poor, and they got their just desserts really. But talk to me about that game then on the last visit to the King Power Stadium for Newcastle.
Well, we certainly owe you one, that's for sure. And I don't think the players will forget that one, mate. I don't think Eddie Howe will let them forget that. But it was quite a funny one because it was a bit of a rarity in the Eddie Howe regime so far that we got comfortably battered by a team like we did. But I think back in that season, when Leicester click into gear like they did last season, obviously this season started differently, but last season when you clicked into gear, you could go through teams. Before you know it, you blink and you're 2-3-0 down. And I think that's just what happened in Newcastle. I think we were a little bit naive in that game. I think we maybe didn't push out to Maddison quick enough. We didn't watch Tielemans' runs. And I think that's something that we will remember. This time around, we're a different animal now. If anything, I mean, the bookies are making us the favourites for the fixtures, which is still weird for us as fans, Jack, to be honest with you. We still try and get our heads around that in games like this. But I think going into these fixtures now, as I said, we don't fear the teams. We respect them. But I think Eddie Howe is so meticulous now in what he does with the opposition and getting his team right against them. I think that, you're looking at kind of your midfield, and now you've got the boy Samari in midfield who's come in and done his job. Defensively he's very, very good. He's going to have to be right on his game to stop Bruno Guimaraes, who for me I think is one of the best midfielders outside of the top four. I really believe that. I know we're in the top four, but he's an unbelievable footballer. But obviously you have got dangerous players as well. You've got Barnes, you've got Vardy can still do a little bit. I think Vardy will struggle against the defence that we've got because Botman's got a bit of pace about him. His positional sense is incredible. I think Tielemans seems to be back at it, which is great for you guys because he is a phenomenal
footballer. The ball from distance.
Yeah, mate. Well, there was talk about us being linked to him at one point. And I was salivating because I think he's a great player. But where we might struggle against you guys, I don't think it'll be a 4-0 like it was last season, because I think we're better than that now. It'll be a tight game, 2-1 either way, I think. But where we might struggle, whereas you guys have got Samara that can drop in and watch Bruno's runs, we struggle a little bit because Sean Longstaff's probably the most defensive-minded midfielder out of the three of them. Joe Litton can boss people and break up play and take the ball 20 yards up the pitch, but sometimes he lacks discipline when he's in a holding position, and he'll be going as Tielemans is coming, and he might just miss that run. So, if Longstaff plays, which you might very well do, he's going to have to be at it watching those Tielemans runs, and that's going to be tough ask for Longstaff. So I think this game will definitely be won in the midfield. And when you look at your midfield, I mean, you've got some talented footballers, mate. You've got likes of Harvey Barnes, I think he's a great player. I love Dewsbury Hall as well. He's a very, very good player. Such an engine on the lad, such an engine. And then obviously Tielemans bang at it, as was said. Oh, mate. Well, Longstaff's a bit like that for us. I think he lacks the quality that Dewsbury Hall has, but he's got such an engine on him. Longstaff looks like he's just started the game in the 90th minute because he just runs and runs and runs. But where he lets you down a bit is he rushes his passes a bit. He can get dispossessed. He can close. He'll hit a blind pass across the field, and then one of your guys will come in and nick it. And we'll be up against it. Whereas Bruno never does that. Bruno takes his time. He knows the pass before he gets it. So I think our midfield will have to be at it. But it'll be a really interesting game because I think both midfields have got such legs in the side. With, as we said, they're your lads. Us with Joe Willock, with Joe Linton. Miggy's got the legs. I think Maxi will start the game. I think I put that in our prediction line of that. Maxi will start on the left-hand side of that front three, I think, with Wilson and Miggy. Now, for you as a Leicester fan, obviously, you must be a bit, I wouldn't say daunted by that, but that's something as Leicester fans, you must look at them three and think they're bang on form, all three of them. That's one of those, isn't it?
I think with Newcastle, you've now got to be wary. They're a threat. People might have laughed at them before and thought, we'll do these over, but they're a complete different animal now. Eddie Howe's got his stamp on that side. All players are playing for him. The team's confident. The team spirit's good. You can see after games, the photos in the changing room after every game, they seem quite knitted together, Newcastle. It's like Leicester. Now, we had a bad start to the season, first 7 games, but in the last 8 Premier League games, we've been superb. So it's kind of like now, Danny Ward's hit form now. Wow, Fast looks fantastic. Daniel Amati stepped up. Samare looks fantastic. Tielemans looks good since getting the armband. Maddison, Harvey Barnes, threatening players against Newcastle. But the thing is, you talk about Jamie Vardy. Teams, like I say to opposition fans, they look at Jamie Vardy as a goal scorer, these Premier League fans. Do you know what I'm saying? They don't look at him as what he actually does off the ball and
his work rate. Got
the ball, and that's what Jamie Vardy's known for, his goal scoring. But to Leicester fans, he's the complete package. He does everything. It's just these Premier League supporters from other clubs only watching for like goal scoring and that, he's a great goal scorer, but they don't look at Jamie Vardy. It's like, without Jamie Vardy, you'd be nothing. We've proved we can play without Jamie Vardy. You know what I'm saying? We've proved it. We can play. It's just Daka and Nacho need to start stepping up now when the GOAT retires. When the GOAT retires, isn't it? That's exactly how I look at Jamie Vardy. They really need to step up, because if they don't, we're going to end up getting another striker in, and we could be paying 40-50 million for. Let's have a look at the last 5 results between the two sides at the KP. Leicester winning 4-0 last time round. 4-2 Newcastle. That was a good game. That was when we were fighting for the Champions League. We beat you 5-0 when Prime Ricardo. That was a bad day for you lot. I believe you lot got
It was, yeah.
Game. You beat us 1-0 and you beat us 2-1. I believe the 2-1 game was when, did John Joe Shelby score, was it? When he did that celebration. So you lot...
maybe with one of them, I think. Yeah. But I know Iosi Perez scored a couple of them. I think when he lobbed Schmeichel, I think was one of them. That's probably why you guys signed.
That was the 1-0 game. I remember that was the only goal in the game.
It was a good finish. That was under Rafa, I think, where we were. I think under Rafa we were a lot more
part of the bus side, isn't it?
Yeah,
Park the bus.
I mean,
Can't get through.
I loved Rafa. Rafa was effective, I think is the word I'd use, effective. But Eddie Howe is far more dynamic as a manager. And I think
What do you
this
expect?
Newcastle United
With Steve Bruce. That would have fought too.
Oh, mate, God. To be fair, mate, Steve Bruce had moments, but my God, I mean, by and large, it was
like
he gave us more nightmares than Freddy Krueger, mate. He really did. He was horrendous.
Let's look at the foot in both camps. Talk to me about Jose Perez then. He's been up and down at Leicester. He's been a frustrating £30 million signing for the Foxes. Talk to me about Perez then. What's your thoughts on him, Chris?
It's disappointing what's happened with Jose Perez, because I mean we signed him for 1.7 million. He was supposed to be in the development squad, and because we were in such a state as a club, he ended up playing way more than he should have done. But he grew into his role. He was so busy. He started to add goals to his game before we sold him, which is why we got so much money for him. But he was such a busy player. He would draw fouls off people. His close touch control was good. He'd spin players. He'd win your free kicks and pens. And we were quite gutted when he went because, at the time, we had the three amigos, we had him, Rondon and Mickey, and it was a nice little setup that we had there. But it was one of them where Leicester were going places and we weren't. So we had to lose that player. If a player like a player like Perez was with us now, he wouldn't be going anywhere. He'd be staying in this side or he'd be staying in amongst this squad. So it's amazing what a couple of years in football can do for either side. But it's a real shame it's not worked for him at Leicester. I think he's not. I don't know whether he struggled to find the right position, Jack, or he struggled to put a stamp on the team.
Side, what we're having issues with. He's a down the middle player. He's not an out wide or anywhere else. He's a down the middle. He's more effective down the middle. But
he's like a number 10, isn't he? Put him in like a number 10.
Put you here, put you there. It's just like, what are you doing, Brendan? Talk to me about these three players: Danny Simpson, Chris Wood, and Norberto Solano. Then and Keith Gillespie.
Oh, mate, great player. I mean, to be fair, a little shout out for Danny Simpson. I loved Danny Simpson when he was with us. He was in the Championship with us. Obviously, won the league and went up under Chrissy Houghton. He was so consistent. When we got in the Premier League, he was exactly the same. Moved on to Leicester, won the Premier League. And that's a hell of a story for Danny Simpson, for a Man United outcast. And he was a real professional when he was with us. Nobby Solano, I think every club Nobby Solano's ever been at, whether he was 23 or 33, was just class. Yep. Just a naturally gifted footballer, a real professional. I used to see him actually. The reason we loved him so much, he was brilliant on the pitch and he set up loads of goals for Shearer. But on a Monday night, he was always in the quayside getting absolutely pissed out of his brain with all the fans. It was brilliant. He was the most relatable guy you've ever seen. So normally about 11 o'clock at night, there'd be 6 cabs and your Shearers, your Gary Speeds, all the pros would go home and Nobby would come walking over the bridge with us like that to the nightclub. So it was great. He was such a great character and an unbelievable player. So yeah, Chris Wood's a little bit with us. Obviously, he was younger at Leicester. He's a bit more prolific, a bit more mobile. With us, he's kind of come with this big price tag. I think he was a bit of a panic buy at the time when we thought Wilson was knackered. If we could have got somebody better, I think we would have got somebody better. But he does do a job. He brings others into the game. He holds it up. He tries to create space for the likes of Almiron and stuff. But what worries me about Wood is the game passes him by. It's too quick paced. The way Eddie Howe has us playing, Wood's about 2 or 3 steps behind. The way Bruno plays, the way Miggy plays, the way Joe Linton and Joe Willock play, he's just not quick enough to keep up with that play. And that worries me a little bit about Chris Wood in the long term. But I think he'll do a job for us, certainly till the end of this season. And then if we do finish in the higher echelons, he might be one of the ones that we send on and say, thanks for your time, Chris. And we step up a level, possibly. But yeah, all great. And Gillespie, mate, fine on Gillespie. That Barcelona game, unbelievable. Just that one game alone for Gillespie. But he again was a phenomenal winger. Everyone seems to forget when we sold Andy Cole to Man United, we got him as part of the deal, and everyone forgets that. So everyone talks about Cole leaving because Cole was amazing for us, but he came with us as part of the deal, and he was quietly under the radar. We got one hell of a player, and him and Ginola either side for Ferdinand and Shearer, forget about it, and the entertainers. Just what a player, great player.
The last 3 for you then, Chris, is team selection then to play Leicester. What's the starting 11? What we're expecting? And key players also.
Yeah, well, my starting 11, I think I did it on our channel as well. So that back five doesn't move. It's so steady for us. You got Nick Pope, Trippier, Shaw, Botman, and Burn at left back. I'm still a little bit about Burn at left back. Harvey Barnes might have him on toes. This might be the game where we go, actually, he shouldn't play left back. So we might be in trouble there. But the midfield, I think we'll go for Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, and it's a toss-up. I can see Sean Longstaff playing just for his defensive capabilities, but Willock's so good on the break with that pace, as we saw in the home game where Bruno got the winner. He can do that to teams, but maybe Eddie will keep him on the bench and bring him on later on like he did in that fixture. And up front, I think Maxi's little cameo in the cup, he looked up for it. He's got a new haircut, so he looks sharp. He's up for it. He's got new red boots, and he was doing all the tricks and the flicks. So I think we might get Maxi in from the start at the weekend. With Miggy out on the right and obviously Wilson up front. Key players, mate, we've already mentioned him a couple of times. Bruno Guimaraes, everything goes through him in the middle of the park. He's electric. Callum Wilson, he looks sharp. I was surprised he played against Bournemouth in the Cup. If Wilson is bang at it, for me, next to Harry Kane, I think he's probably the most prolific goal scorer, English goal scorer anyway, in the Premier League. No offense to Jamie Vardy, obviously, mate, but I think he's, Wilson is a hell of a striker when he's at it. So for me, Bruno, Wilson are our key players, and at the back, Sven Botman and Trippier as well with his delivery. They're the key threats for us, I think.
Yeah, I think with Leicester, we'll start off with Danny Ward, the back four, Castagno, Marty, Wout Fass. Luke Thomas will play left back. Let's have a look. Midfield, Samore, Tielemans, Dewsbury Hall, Barnes, Maddison. Do I start Daka or do I start Vardy? I'll tell you what, we'll go Jamie Vardy. Put Jamie Vardy in there. I might be wrong. It might be Patson Daka. Just to get him behind that Newcastle defence. Brendan might use that pace sort of scenario of a striker. So he might start Daka. Daka started in the last few Premier League games. So, yeah, I think he'll go Daka. Key players for Leicester will obviously be James Maddison, Harvey Barnes, Yuri Tielemans, them sort of key players. Vardy off the bench. If Vardy doesn't start, then he might get one off the bench. But I think Wout Fass, the defence looks more tighter. We're more comfortable from corners than what we was before. We concede every game, But now we've got this new set-piece coaching, Chris. We look good from set-pieces. We look better defending them and creating chances from them. But the last one is then, Chris, score prediction, mate. Where are we going?
But it's interesting, just on the set pieces there, before I give you my score prediction. We are such a big side, but our centre-halves seem to have heads like 50 pence pieces when they go in the attacking threat.
Like Robert Huth.
Dan Burn could head an asteroid out back into space at the back.
So tall,
put him in the opposition's box, and the more chance of smashing somebody's car window in the car park, I think. But we'll see what happens. We might score the weekend now. So yeah, score prediction for me. I mean, I went 2-1 to Newcastle on our channel. It could go 2-1 either way. I think that you'll have both teams who are in good form, who play on the front foot, who play with intensity and pace, play through the middle. And I think it'll be a really good game, Jack. And I think it'll be one of the better games of the Boxing Day fixtures, really. But I'm gonna go stick to my guns. I'm gonna go 2-1 to Newcastle for me, mate. I think
I'm gonna go 2-1 Leicester.
I thought you might.
if Maddison scores, then we can put the Maddison scenario to bed.
Mate, so, no. I think someone might throw him a black and white shirt. I think, mate. Just
how safe is Rodgers' job? Rodgers' job is more safe now than what it was after the Tottenham game, so we'll just put it that way.
Definitely. He was close, wasn't he? My dad's a Celtic fan. He loves Brendan Rodgers, but he was very close at one point, wasn't he? It was getting a bit dicey for Brendan, wasn't it?
Yeah, guys, get your score predictions in as always. Chris, the last one from you then, mate, is where can everyone find you?
Oh, can find us, yeah. So
on social media.
I won't give that location away, but no. I haven't got enough beer to deal with the people that show up. So we are the Evermore podcast, Evermore NUFC. So we usually do 2 podcasts late Monday night at 10 o'clock, which is just a little bit of a crack show where we call What's Gannon On, and then Wednesday we do our proper Evermore podcast for Newcastle fans. So come and check us out on there. We have little pop-up videos here and there, transfer rumours. Normally about James Maddison these days, Jack, but we do a few transfer rumours and stuff like that as well. So yeah, we're just on YouTube, Evermore NUFC, come and check us out if you can, guys.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming on, Chris. You've been a great guest.
Pleasure.
And
thank you, mate.
Good luck for the rest of the season after Monday, mate. And hopefully I'll catch up with you at St James's Park later on in the
Absolutely,
season.
Mate. Absolutely. You too, mate. Good luck with the season, mate. I think you'll definitely get back to where you should be in that top 10, top 7 bracket, mate. So good to see.
Cheers, Chris.
Cheers, Jack. See you later, mate.
That was Chris from the Newcastle podcast. Go and check the lads out on there. Thank you for the show, guys. Really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed tonight's show, please smash a like if you can on YouTube or on Facebook, wherever you're watching us. Hit that subscribe button if you can. It'd be really much appreciated. Let's grow together. And yeah, that is it from me. And I will be back later on tonight as Leicester City are in the hat for the quarter-final draw at the Carabao Cup. And also Newcastle are in there as well. So, you don't know, we might play each other in the Carabao Cup, who knows. But yeah, join me tonight at 9:45 after the Man City game versus Liverpool. We'll see who wins that one and who will be the 8th team in the hat. So that's it from me. Thank you for watching. This is Jack from the Final Whistle saying good night, and I'll see you later on. Bye-bye for now, everyone.